Good morning, folks. We're just letting individuals in from the waiting room. We'll give them a moment for their audio to connect. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our ESEA July office hour. We appreciate the large crowd that we have, and we hope that some information will be extremely helpful for you in regards to the FY26 ESEA application that we will share with you today. As you folks know, a few priority notices went out. The one in particular that we call your attention to is the one that was released a week ago about the delay in final allocations from the U.S. Department of Education. We quoted the email that we as a team received, but also the state agency received, that indicated that decisions have not yet been made concerning submissions and awards for the upcoming academic year, and that these titles 2, 3, 4A, are going to be delayed. And right now, we do not have any additional information. As you might be able to see, we as a department are committed to being sure that you folks have the information as quickly as possible. So we apologize for the influx of priority notices and the influx of information on Grants for Me page, but we are just trying to be sure that everyone has an opportunity and an entry point into the information that we are receiving that you folks should also have. So we will continue to utilize priority notices. We will continue to utilize the email system within Grants for Me. So today we'll talk a little bit about the address book, and it will be critical to have the address book updated because that is the email addresses that are used for information that is being sent directly from Grants for Me. We will also use the home page of Grants for Me. So the landing homepage will have some additional information when we make changes and or have updated information for you folks.
All right, good morning, everybody. Just want to talk a little bit about the applications themselves. Right now, we're going to be moving forward with Title 1A and 5B. All other placeholder allocations have been removed. That includes the Title 4 preliminaries that were in there. Please note that only substantial approval will only be given for Title 1 and Title 5 to start with. If and when we receive the other titles, substantial approval will be given for those specifically at a later date. Please make sure also that if you've gone in your application and you had transferred funds from, say, Title 4 into Title 1 or Title 5, please make sure that you delete those transfers, as it's going to throw an error in your application and you will not be able to submit with those in there. So your application at this time should only include Title 1 and Title 5 if you have those. Additionally, we wanted to let folks know that for the ESEA coordinator projects, our team has decided to waive the requirement that you need to be funded by more than one title, as well as the cap of 4% from Title 1A and 5B. We also are going to be very careful in looking at this to make sure that the project is going to be reasonable and necessary based on the amount of funding that the district does receive. We're hoping that this is going to provide some flexibility for districts who previously counted on other titles to help fund this work.
Great. And, Dan has started, and I just wanted to provide a little bit additional context, right? Like, this is unprecedented in terms of having the application available in July, but not with allocations in some critical titles and programs for SAUs. So what this office hours is, and I think you're getting the sense here, is that instead of like our monthly update reiteration, we are spending this hour right now going through various pages of the application and what's going to be different for you to be able to complete it. If it's important, and probably is, to get Title 1 and 5 funding solidified prior to the school year. I just wanted to note that we have a guidance that's going to kind of be the do's and don'ts that are on these slides in a PDF, and we will share that with everybody after today. So after we get some final notes or questions from the field, you will get a guidance that essentially reiterates this. I just wanted to be mindful of that because we are about to go page by page and talk about how it should look different this year, which can be stressful. So just note that. So Dan mentioned, the transfer thing, and then of course the coordinator project. So I'm going to talk a bit about the assurances real quick. You know that you have ESEA assurances, general assurances. For ESEA assurances, think through, right? It's always for those allocations that you receive. So you have a couple options with the assurances page, Title 1 and 5, of course, especially as recipients of 5. For those that are very important to follow those assurances as normal. We have talked a bit in the road shows and the updated slides that we have on our website about the updates in assurances around Head Start and around foster care provisions for just one. And then there's updates to Title III and things like that. So be mindful, take your time with those assurances pages, read through them. The options you have for the funding we do not have available for 2, 3, and 4 is to select yes. If you anticipate being receivers of those funding, what you're essentially saying in that assurances page is, I don't want to go back to you. We will follow the law if and when we receive those funds. Or if you're not comfortable with that at this moment, the other option that you can do as an SAU is essentially check that box that says, if the district does not accept or receive, right? Because you haven't received 2, 3, or 4. So you can also just check those boxes. If and when we do receive those, you'd go back to those assurances because part of your recipient, sub-grant recipient, is that you're following those laws. So I wouldn't select no on them. That's just going to give you more burden of work and be inaccurate. Your school and district needs assessment pages, right? Your North Star for what your high needs are through your whole comprehensive needs assessment process that you've gone through this spring and summer with your stakeholders. Those portions of that application can remain relatively unchanged, right? Your high needs might be in the realm of multilingual learners or needing more well-rounded education opportunities in math or in science or STEM, things like that. So if that's the case, keep that honest about what the process, what the actual analysis was through the process of what your goals are, what activities you're going to be doing. You don't need to remove those high areas or goals that you previously created. Hopefully we'll have that funding and be able to support that.
All right, the next part of the application is going to look a little bit different is your consultation with a non-public school if you have one that you are required to consult and provide equitable services for. With only having Title I and Title V, that updated, that form you upload should only reflect Title 1A. Any forms and projects for Titles 2, 3, and 4 are something you're going to kind of save for the future. In your ongoing consultation, you can of course discuss kind of the if-when situations for these other titles. But what we see in the ESEA application is just going to be for Title I at this time. So if your non-public receives Title I, that will be the only funding in their project. That'll be the only part of the consultation form you're completing. If normally they receive equitable services in 2, 3, and 4, you're just going to leave those off for the time being. And just like, you're not going to have other projects here, you're not going to have a project for your non-public school if they only receive 2, 3, and 4. And just like I'm going to say here in a minute, you can copy that work you might have already done, paste it somewhere locally, save it so you don't cause yourself more stress if, say, in 2 months we do get these other titles. This also would go if you have a school project that doesn't participate, say, in Title I, but does benefit from Titles 2, 3, or 4. We're going to advise you to copy and paste that narrative somewhere, save that in your records, but remove that from your application for the time being, as there is no Title 2, 3, or 4 funding as of today, obviously July 8th, 2025. So thinking about funding and supplement, not supplant. We don't yet know what your substantial approval date could be for Titles 2, 3, and 4. So any obligations that are made before we have more information from USDE, Those are things you might have to pay for with previous fiscal year's funds or other local funds. So anything you were planning to pay for that started here at the beginning of July through whenever you received substantial approval. So that's going to take obviously a lot of thought. There's going to be some local decisions that have to be made on how you're paying for things, whether you hold off or whether you decide to fund something locally. If you typically transfer funding, I know a lot of our smaller SAUs transfer a lot of 2 and 4 into Title I to fund a more robust program. You know, for the time being, you're likely going to be okay paying for what you would typically pay for out of just your Title I balance. But if for some reason we don't get Titles 2, 3, and 4, we would run out of you would run out of a Title I balance a lot sooner than you would otherwise. So again, going to have to be thoughtful, make some local decisions on how to handle that particular situation. As always, you should not be obligating funding you do not have substantial approval for. So if you don't have substantial approval for Title II and you don't have any previous years of Title II left, you're not obligating Title II until we hear more.
Great, and this is just another good opportunity to reiterate for our school-wide Title I programs. There's flexibility in funding the school-wide plans regardless of the funding streams. You have to be sure that your school-wide plans, which a lot of you consolidate them in that SAU Consolidated CNA document we have, you want to make sure they're updated. And then on the actual application, you have your intent and purpose statements, right? And that's where you accurately portray what existing services you're already providing for students in case that you want those funding to go somewhere else, right? So let's say you're already doing a lot of academic intervention for your most at-risk students, then some of your Title I dollars may go to paying for PD if that's a high need area and outlined in your plan. It's just very important to understand school-wide flexibility. Especially right now where other funds may not be available. You can't consolidate Titles 2, 3, and 4. So you would just be writing the intent and purpose statements for Title 1 and 5 and local and state funding. If you have more questions about that, you can reach out to your RPM or CC me, because I know that for school-wide programs, it will be important to kind of make sure that at least your early few months of programming is happening as you need it to for your kids. Another good opportunity to remind SAUs about pre-award cost requests. These are expenses after July 1, but prior to substantial approval. If you're submitting your application and you want to make sure you'd be able to pay for some of that summer PD that's happening at your school-wide program, or you have a tutoring Title I after school program happening, you want to make sure that you're really specific with your request for pre-award. You can only ask in Titles 1 and 5 at this moment. You can't ask for pre-award costs for allocations we have not yet received. But for some SAUs, this flexibility of being able to obligate funding prior to substantial approval might be a good direction to go.
All right, we also just wanted to bring everybody's attention to our website where we actually have some allocations posted. Title V final allocations are posted. Title I is currently working on their final allocations, and once they have been done, we'll make sure we let everybody know and they'll be uploaded to Grants for Me. But currently, Title I preliminaries and Title V final allocations are currently in Grants for Me. So we also wanted to touch on the Title V estimates versus the final allocations. So essentially what happened was Title V estimates first went up in early March. They ended up being revised at the end of March. Final allocations were calculated last week and put up on our webpage and loaded into Grants for Me. It was then we discovered that there was a significant difference in the revised estimates and the final allocations. When we went back to look, the revised estimates had an error in one of the formulas for the districts that were receiving harmless funds under Title V, where it was calculating at 100% of the hold harmless amount rather than the 50% that it should have been for this year. All the numbers have been since verified and corrected, and all the accurate numbers have been uploaded to Grants for Me, and that's where they sit currently.
what we did was we shared a fair amount of information in regards to FY26 ESEA funding applications and where the information that we currently have in regards to the state FY26's budget and the titles that we have received. We know that there has been some conversations at the federal level in regards to state FY27 school year 26-27 budget, known as the One Big Beautiful Bill. And we want to let you know that currently we do not have any additional information at this time in regards to state FY27. As soon as we have more information, we will let you folks know. We hope that you see that we are trying our very best to get our information out to you folks as quickly as possible.
All right, as I think Rita mentioned earlier, this is the time of year where we want to make sure we are adding and updating our users in Grants for Me. So if you had any sort of turnover at any of your positions, specifically your superintendent, your ESEA coordinator, or your business manager, you want to update those roles in Grants for Me. There should be at least 2 people in your SAU who are able to update users. That way, if one of them is one of the folks who leaves, someone else can adjust users accordingly. We have a user access guide that I'm sure will be thrown in the chat here shortly. But if you run into any sort of issues, please feel free to reach out to your regional program manager. We'll help get everyone squared away.
Great. And given kind of how messy and difficult this application season is looking to be at this moment, several regional program managers are offering optional office hours. I'm thinking I'm doing the same time next week at 9 a.m. and I will send a Zoom link to Hancock and York County folks to join. Ryan is doing 10 a.m. And Daniel visited, I think, in person yesterday at RSU 9. This is definitely not the moment to be shy. If you have questions, if you want to understand, especially new coordinators, like what's going on, how to survive these next couple months and do right by your application, ensure some fiscal health for your SAU, reach out to your regional program manager to set up a call. Do as much as you can of the application, and also don't sit with a headache and a stomach ache if you really just need help to guide you through this process this year. So just an open call to reach out to folks to help you for this. Jess is sick today, but much of her work around sort of aligning Title I data with low-income students, there's a new, it's not in Synergy anymore, it's in Connect. So there will be more general summer trainings, just so we stick to our low-income student data being in our state databases and verified by our data team. So for non-public schools wishing to participate in Title I for the next year, you'll attend general summer training, there's gonna be targeted fall training on Title I data for non-publics Tuesday, September 2nd. We will notify folks and send out more reminders as it comes closer to it. Obviously, ESEA coordinators are going to be consulting with non-publics about the lack of allocations, about what other projects might be delayed. This is a great time for those that do take Title I and are used to having a Title I targeted program in their schools to talk to them about ensuring that the data sets and their student counts are accurate and that they attend those trainings. We're going to, oh, these are the sessions. There you go. And there's training dates, and I can send the link in a moment.
Okay, good morning, folks. My name is Tyra Corson. I'm the management analyst for the ESEA team here at the department. And we do want to inform all of you that the FY24 Tidings Amendment Waiver and FY25 Title I Carryover Waiver was approved. For FY24 funding, they have been extended and are now due to expire 9/30/26. Also, a waiver was received for the FY25 Title I-A funds that become carryover as of 10/1/25. And the waiver allows Maine to issue grant waivers for excessive carryover of more than 15% more than once in a 3-year period. ESEA funds that are ended 9/30/25 are highlighted in yellow. Please make sure that you are checking what you have available for these funds and get your invoices in as soon as possible. Please note that the liquidation period has changed and begins 10/1/25 and ends 12/15/25. Spending down ESEA funds. This is just a chart that lets you know as of this morning how much is still available to be invoiced for in each fiscal year for ESEA funds. There will be a federal fiscal office hour held July 24th. We are doing these quarterly now, so there'll be an additional one October 23rd as well. We invite all that handle federal funds or federal programs to join us. If you have any questions that you would like us to answer or topics you want to hear more about, please email me so that I can get that put into the presentation. There'll be a fiscal boot camp offered during the Educator Summit, August 5th and 6th. It is the same fiscal content offered both days, so you only need to commit to one or the other. And this is going to be held at Thomas College in Waterville. Reimbursement requests. We always ask for a detailed expenditure report. Any and all fiscal backup must be as a PDF. It should not be as an editable file. Additional backup for PD travel tuition reimbursement may include invoices with the name of the staff participating, dates of travel or attendance, and always reimbursement is requested after the completion of these professional developments or travel. FY26 funds. Reasonable, necessary, and allocable are all terms defined in 2 CFR 200.403 through 405. The period of performance and period of allowability are often terms used interchangeably. This period of the grant begins on the substantial approval date and ends when the grant ends. POs can establish an obligation, but not an expense. What does this mean? Obligation is defined in EGR 76.707 when obligations are made. A PO with a vendor can establish an obligation. However, it does not establish an expense because the items or services do not become an expense until after an item is ordered or the service is provided. Internal POs are created within the SAU's accountability system or accounting system and does not establish an expense. Therefore, confirmation of purchase is necessary to make sure the expense, supply or service is established during the period of performance. Contracts must not include dates prior to the substantial approval date of the grant funding the contract. Some dates that you may see in a contract are obviously the dates of service, the start date, the date it was signed, and the end date of the contract itself. Invoicing and grants for me. Grants for me does not like future dates, and once you start an invoice, it won't let you submit an invoice that was started with a future date included in the service period on the request page. Also, if you have received a partial payment for a request, this is more than likely due to the transfer of funds in the application for funds, in which case the payments are proportional to the transfer of funds. For example, if the SAU transferred Title II into Title I in the application, all Title I invoices will be paid with both Title I and Title II funds. This may be one of the reasons you cannot invoice is that you have not seen the full payment for the reimbursement request in Grants for Me. The request has not been put into the state accounting system paid status. Recently, there has been a longer delay than normal between payments from one title over another one due to staffing changes within the General Government Service Center and end-of-year closeouts. Please keep in mind the SEA has 30 days to disperse payments from the time we receive an approvable reimbursement request. Another reason you may not be able to invoice is the SAU started an invoice with future dates at the time they just wanted to get a jump on the process. For example, if I started a request today for the month of July, knowing I will get back to it in early August, when I return in August, Grants for Me will not let me submit the invoice. I will need to delete my draft and start again.
As always, we draw your attention to the professional learning opportunities that the Maine Department of Education is offering. However, one that we want to draw your direct attention to is the annual summit. Tyra mentioned that the annual summit is going to have an option for individuals who work under the fiscal lens of an SAU. And here's the link to register, but we also want to draw your attention to the fact that if you are in a school that has been identified under Maine's model of school support, the registration fees are being waived. You can utilize the website to register, and there will be an option for you to select that you are an identified school, and you potentially can have up to 10 staff members. It says 5 on the slide, but indeed we've upped that number to 10 so that we can be sure that our schools who have been identified are capitalizing on professional learning that we as the Department of Education is providing. I know we mentioned that the regional program managers are your first point of contact for all questions associated with any of the ESEA title funding, but again, this is critical in this time where we want to be sure that you know who your point of contact is within the ESEA team. We are tending to all matters and are hosting optional office hours within the regions. More information was available on an earlier slide, but also will be sent to those specific regions. As always, here's how you can view information related to the Maine Department of Education. And what I will do at this time is I will stop sharing my screen and we'll tend to some of the questions that we see in the chat box.